Hi everyone. Well, we're going to continue on with climate change. And today what we're going to be talking about is how we know climate change is actually happening on Earth. So one of the main indicators or the main reasons we can say that climate change is happening is we've noticed that overall there has been an increase in global temperatures. So, not just in Ontario, but we're talking worldwide or earthwide. And that phenomenon has been called global warming. Okay, so we're talking about the average for all of Earth. Now, in some cases, some countries have felt global warming a lot more than other countries. And a lot of times there are people who try to discredit the fact that global warming is existing because the thing with weather and the thing with temperatures that there are fluctuations. People often say, oh, it's been a warm summer, it's been a cool summer, it's been a dry summer or a wet summer, and that happens with everything, right? So but there is concrete proof that we have seen increases like in averages of temperature since the 60s, since 1960, consistently increasing. So that kind of discounts those natural fluctuations. Okay. Other things we can look at outside of just looking at temperature is looking at the fact that our glaciers are melting. Okay. So if we take a look at glaciers, and I'm just going to scooch up here, what they've noticed is that glaciers are melting, and what you can see from them melting is that sea levels are rising. So what that means is overall, sea levels are rising by 0.16 millimeters a year. Now, that doesn't seem significant, but when it keeps adding, what ends up happening is we get more water. And with more water, there's actually problems because, as you know, ice reflects the sun. So the minute we start losing our glaciers, we actually on Earth keep more sun energy. And then it becomes one of those amplification effects where because we don't have reflection of sun, we keep more sun, so things get hotter, so more ice melts. Do you get what I'm saying? It's kind of like a domino effect. And the fact that we're losing glaciers and glacier ice not only affects the temperature and the fact that we retain more sunlight, but it actually affects animals. And I'm sure you've heard of this, especially with the polar bears. They need ice to survive. That's their natural habitat. They need ice to hunt. And if they don't have ice, they can't sustain swimming forever. I mean, neither could we. But with diminishing places for them to actually live and sleep and hunt, they will become extinct. So what we've noticed over the last 100 years is that sea levels have risen 10 to 15 centimeters. Okay, so think about it. There's more liquid water on Earth. So that means more liquid water is able to be evaporated. We'll talk about that later. But another thing that we may not think about is the fact that that liquid water is now becoming more and more acidic. Okay, and the reason for that is, I'm just going to put you right here. The reason for that is when we burn carbon dioxide, when we're combusting gasoline or doing any kind of combustion reaction, I'm just going to show you a little bit of a chemistry reaction here. So we got carbon dioxide gas and we're burning. So we're making it, if you remember that from combustion in chemistry. And when we couple that with the water in our lakes and our oceans and our seas, what ends up happening is you make carbonic acid. Okay? And this is an acid. So obviously, if I couple water and carbon dioxide and I make an acid, that ultimately makes our bodies of water more acidic. Okay? And not only is that not good because we need a pH balance, but many of the organisms living in those bodies of water do not survive in acidic conditions. There are some actually that really survive well. So what will end up happening is those species will take over and other species will become extinct. And then you've got no biodiversity and you have really a deadening of your bodies of water, mainly sea life. Okay? So here's another example of how rising sea level is really, really detrimental to coastal areas. And when I say coastal areas, that's obviously places or cities or areas where people live that are by water. Okay, so they live on the coast. So all the areas in purple here are more vulnerable to a situation where there's more water, so there could be a lot more flooding. They'll be affected by a lot more tropical storms because they're by the water. Okay, so this is happening already. Okay, so that's a good thing. Well, not a good thing that we're talking about it. So hopefully we can figure out ways to reduce the situation. The next indicator that something is happening to our climate is the fact that we are seeing changes in the amount of precipitation in certain areas. So in some cases, there are higher amounts of precipitation, and in some cases, depending on where you are, and these are more interior to the country, you will see less precipitation. Okay, so you're going to see areas of flooding, and you're going to see areas of drought, which means lack of precipitation. So that's one pattern that we're really starting to notice. The next pattern is the fact that winds are changing from their usual patterns. So they're going faster. They're happening, these strong winds are happening a lot more commonly. Like, we've been having strong winds for a while. I mean, I think it was a year or two ago. And I'm sure you remember this, a lot of my neighbors, including myself, my fence blew down. So I lost a bunch of shingles, and I'm sure there's a couple of you who lived the same life I did. And the fact, too, is that winds are changing direction. So the minute winds start changing directions, they also blow different temperatures with them, so different heat with them, and those patterns change. And if you start changing where heat is traveling, you are changing the climate. Okay? So if we take a look here, we'll take a look at this diagram right here, which is kind of interesting. You're seeing a change in how much precipitation, so not just rain, but snow, sleet, hail, anything that's falling from the sky pretty much. And so you will see areas where there's a lot more. And interior, this is my interior, right? Like right inside, you're going to see less precipitation. So these guys are going to be a little more affected by drought, okay? And that's our prairies. What's grown in the prairies? Wheat. So that will affect crops, and it will make growing crops way more expensive because you've got to find ways to keep those crops watered. Okay, ooh, I went too far ahead because I was talking about desertification and droughts already. Okay, so that's these situations right here where we have less precipitation in the interior. Okay, as you can see, usually, well, with the exception of right here, most of our coastal regions are getting more precipitation. Now, this is one we've always talked about, deforestation. So once we start cutting down trees or removing forests, any kind of plants, we are contributing to climate change. And the reason for that is because we know that plants, go through the process of photosynthesis, and photosynthesis uses carbon dioxide as a reactant, right? If you have fewer plants, you use less carbon dioxide, which we know is a greenhouse gas, and we'll be talking about greenhouse gases fairly soon. But the more carbon dioxide that is still in our environment, the more acidification of water, the more retention of heat in our ecosystems and in our atmosphere. Okay, so deforestation contributes to climate change. We need plants, we need trees, okay, because we need them to soak up the CO2 and to produce oxygen. Okay. Lastly, climate and health. When we talk about changing climate, certain things change. You have more of different types of organisms growing, like insects and rodents and other animals that maybe would not normally thrive. And a lot of those different types of animals can carry diseases. So that's one thing. When we have extreme weather, say we have smog, a lot of people with respiratory problems do experience major problems breathing. A lot of them will go into respiratory distress. When you couple smog with high temperatures, you will have a lot of people having heart attacks and like fainting from heat stroke and things like that. So if we have a warmer climate, humans and animals will feel that change. Also, when you have more wind and when you have higher temperatures, you will also experience more dust, mold, and pollen, which for some people are allergens, so you'll get more seasonal allergies and people's quality of life goes down. All right, so every one of these will impact on our healthcare system and the capacity of our healthcare system to take care of us. Also, the warmer the temperature is, the more opportunity for bacteria to contaminate water sources. Okay? Most bacteria thrive in warmer conditions. There are some that thrive in cold, but I'm talking the vast majority prefer warm. So the warmer Earth is, the more we have to watch out for contamination of our water sources. When we have a warmer environment, we lose our wetlands through evaporation. Okay, and wetlands would be your swamps, your marshes, your bogs. Okay, they serve a very big purpose because they clean our water, but they also are made up of plants that do the same thing. They go through photosynthesis, so they use carbon dioxide as a reactant, and for that reason, they suck up a greenhouse gas and produce oxygen, which is good for us. So if we start losing our wetlands, we have less opportunity for photosynthesis, and we also are losing an ecosystem that's important and that could be a home for certain species. I'm sure you've noticed we've already been hearing about tropical storms starting in tropical places. Okay, so in the Caribbean. What we're noticing now and what meteorologists are noticing now are that we're getting more storms, and the storms we get are stronger, so there's more impact. And the warmer the water gets because of global warming, the more storms we are going to get. Okay, and they've noticed that waters have, since 1908, we've noticed that tropical waters have increased by 0.33 degrees Celsius. Doesn't seem like a lot, but statistically it means a lot, because the warmer water is, the more evaporation occurs. The more evaporation occurs, you've got stronger winds. Stronger winds can lead to stronger storms. Okay? And I've said this already a couple of times in this lesson. The minute we start messing with our climates, we are changing temperature, we're changing humidity, we're changing what things can grow, we're changing availability of water. So the minute you start changing those conditions, you are changing ecosystems and biomes. And by doing that, you are changing what animals and what plants are able to thrive in certain environments. So either new things can come and thrive, and the old things will or may become extinct. Here's some good videos to watch about climate change. Okay, and I urge you to take a boo. This is a great diagram right here. I won't read it out for you, but it's a great map that shows where in the world is most affected by certain parts of climate change. So if we take a look at coastal regions, we're going to have fisheries affected. If we look at interior plains where there are forests, either that deforestation or droughts may affect things. And all of this, I'm going to let you take a look at this because this is kind of an interesting diagram. Okay, so as usual, lesson 3 practice questions. Try those out. There is an LMS quiz. As usual, if there's any questions or concerns, use the discussion tool or you can email us through LMS. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye now.